Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Listen, people, hold your horses and let's stop taking it to the stupid. This thing about Crawford needs to fight Boots and needs to go to pay-per-view. If Thurman and Tszyu can go to pay-per-view, we know for a fact Crawford and Boots should go to pay-per-view, and Crawford and Boots are going to do 1 million buys. Listen, for those of you saying that, where are you getting that from? Okay? How did you arrive at the conclusion that somehow Crawford and Boots can do 1 million pay-per-view buys? How about this? Crawford and Boots probably doesn't even do 100,000. Probably more like 50,000. And I'm not saying that to be negative. We're talking facts here. Couple interesting points of data for you. Crawford and Porter did like 135,000 pay-per-view buys. You know what Bob Arum predicted? He predicted like up to 1.5 million. That's what he said. We could see a range of 500,000 to 1.5 million for Crawford and Porter, Sean Porter. Now, if you ask me, do I think it should have done 1.5 million? Yeah, for Sean Porter and Terrence Crawford at that time, hell yeah, they should have done huge numbers, but they didn't. Now, did over 1.5 million people watch that fight? Probably 1 trillion people watch that shit, but they have their way of watching these fights. But I'm gonna tell you, Terrence Crawford and Boots, that's a die-hard boxing fan dream match. Will we get it? I don't know. But let's put something in perspective. Crawford and Spence did 650,000 pay-per-view buys. Now that's extremely impressive in this day and age. I want to make sure that I say that emphatically. Absolutely outstanding, right? But to reach that number of 650,000 pay-per-view buys, it took Crawford and Spence with their complementing styles, complementing champion status, complementing undefeated records, for them to come together and with their complementary relationships to deliver a successful pay-per-view event. But let me tell you this. You can't expect Crawford and Boots to even get anywhere close to Crawford and Spence. Everyone knew who the hell Spence was. Let me tell you, everyone knew who Spence was. Some people, the casuals may not have known him that much. Maybe a few, like, hey, they got this guy sparred with Mayweather. Mayweather gave him the stamp of approval. But for the most part, they didn't really know him like that. Spence was out here plugging along, winning, picking up belts. Got in that damn car accident. That's where Spence really got put on the map. The whole world was like, yo, who's this boxer? Then for him to come back against Danny Garcia and put in the work like he did, it's like, whoa, this man's an alien. So that is what helped Spence's profile. It's very unfortunate that he had to go through something like that. But the bottom line is, it helped his profile. And Crawford and him and the fight just building up and people talking about it. I mean, even the MMA community was talking about that fight. Those guys were like, shit, that pay-per-view event, we're going to watch that over any of these MMA fights, these UFC fights. You know, when you get MMA fighters looking to watch boxing over an MMA fight, that means you got something. But still, they weren't able to crack 1 million, but they did good. But with Boots Sickness, who I think he kind of lays in the land of kind of obscurity, I just don't see how people want to, argue with me about Crawford and Boots and how those guys need to fight and they need to go on pay-per-view. Let me tell you something. People looking at this crap with Tszyu and Keith Thurman, it's the same thing they were doing before, man. PBC. Same thing Eddie Hearn is doing now. Eddie Hearn just benchmarked the approach to delivering fighter purses. He's just benchmarking what PBC's been doing for quite some time. They take these fighters, they may give them a low guarantee, maybe 250,000 a piece, 500,000 a piece, right? No matter what, you're gonna get that. And then they say, hey, look, we put it on pay-per-view at this price point, And then you guys can work the numbers yourself. And if you do 100,000, you know, you looking to make a couple million. You do over 500,000. You're looking to make, you know, upwards of, you know, 8, 9, 10 million live gate ticket sales. You know, so when these guys want a $10 million guarantee, they're like, nah. But if your pay-per-view numbers do well, if your live gate does well, if your ticket sales does well, then you can get that and maybe more. And that's why I say they're paying these fighters using a pay-per-view curve. I did a video on that shit over a year ago, probably like damn near 2 years ago, because I'm coming up on my it's over about a year and a half ago. I'm coming up on my second year with this channel. But that being said, if Crawford and Boots were to fight, let me tell you something. Crawford would have to swallow his pride and take a massive pay cut compared to the money he made against Earl Spence, and compared to the money he would make in a rematch with Earl Spence. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you right now. Let's all just get that out of our brain. Now, as far as can Crawford beat Boots? Yes. Can Boots beat Crawford? Yes. Who wins? I don't know. I got to go with Crawford. But I mean, you know, I honestly don't know. If they were to fight tomorrow, who do I think wins? I don't know. I think it's a toss-up because they've both been inactive. You know, Crawford ain't getting no younger. Father Time is undefeated. You just don't know. You just don't know. But I mean, I would have to, you know, favor Crawford. But you don't know. And I think if they were to put those guys on, like for Crawford, why would he go and do a pay-per-view event with Boots to where it does poorly and Crawford's out here chasing Canelo? Even if he goes and he knocks Boots out, but his pay-per-view event, they did like 50,000 buys, right? Canelo gonna look at that and be like, shh, you wanna fight me? Okay, 90% for me, 10% for you because you bring nothing to the table. Plus you're a smaller guy, no one's gonna get me credit. So there's a lot of factors that play into these decisions being made when fighters either choose not to fight opponents. And for Crawford, I mean, I just think it's a lose-lose. If he beats Boots, no credit. If Boots beats him, he should have never took the fight. If he fights, he knocks Boots out, well, you were supposed to do that. If he fights him and it goes to pay-per-view and the sales do, you know, like I said, less than 100,000, even 100,000 is horrible. You know what I'm saying? It's not, even in today's market, that's just not where you want to be. But the bottom line is, it just, for what momentum Crawford gained, right? He's lost half of that with inactivity, but that 50% that remains, if he goes into a fight and the fight performs poorly all around, that last bit of momentum that Crawford had, it's gone. Now he's back to being the guy who was on Top Rank that Bob Arum said he lost so much money on him he could have bought a house in Calabasas. That's what he does. So Crawford was in a good position. I think he's in a horrible position now. Because the reality is, look, Tszyu and Keith Thurman are fighting. Word is, it sounds like the winner of that could get the winner of Spence and Crawford. But we don't know. So there are assumptions being made, speculation being made, and those two things drive conversation. And that's where we're at on this. So to me, I think Crawford, I think he's shitting himself. And that's why I got his face here on a picture of this dog leaving droppings out there in the field. I think Crawford's crapping himself right now. I really do. I think he just doesn't know what else to do. I think he's just like, man, this isn't what I envisioned. You know, and I've said it before in another video. It's like when Zahir Rahim beat Eric Morales. He should have been out of here. You know what I'm saying? Boom, he clipped Eric Morales. He should have been out here making huge money, getting big fights. That's not what happened for him. You know, it's just not what happened. And sometimes you see that happen with fighters. You know, they just can't get the big fights and they can't get the big money, no matter how great they are. And that's just kind of how it goes. Winky Wright was another one. He fought everybody, but he wasn't really getting the opportunities. You know what I'm saying? Winky Wright, because of his style, just kill you with the jab all night. High guard, jab, left hand. Very smart, very difficult boxer. And he was another one who deserved to get in the Hall of Fame. And so good job on that. But he deserves so much more. But there's nothing he could do to make people fight him. Even Antonio Tarver, after he got through Roy Jones and he fought Glenn Johnson, but I mean, Tarver just couldn't get fights. And it is what it is. And I think Crawford is kind of going down that same path. Although he's accomplished so much more, I just think he's kind of in the same. I think you could sit there, man, and kind of just group them all together as the fighters who just. I'm not going to say he didn't live up to his potential. I would say the fighters who never. I'm trying to see how to word it, because Crawford's style, I would say, created their own downfalls. I'm not going to say misery, but I say fighters who created their own downfalls. Because Crawford has been stubborn. He has chosen to do some things his way. And he hasn't necessarily chosen to really play the game, and he didn't want to be the villain, the angry guy, and I respect that. But there's some other things he could have done to get out of his comfort zone and raise his profile, make himself more marketable, and he didn't really do a lot of that. So I think he's kind of handicapped himself in those areas, especially knowing that a lot of people weren't really supporting him the way he deserved to be supported. But what I'll say is, Crawford's an amazing fighter, man. But for what he feels he deserves right now, I'm not saying he's wrong for feeling the way he feels. What I'm telling you is he's not going to get it at all. And honestly, if I was his advisor, if you've got to fight Earl Spence, which I can't believe we're even back talking about that, get through that and you're a free agent, get your ass over to Saudi. Get on out there to Saudi, fight them guys from the UK, fight anyone they give you. Just go to Saudi. Fight anybody. Make your 20 million, 30 million. They're signing a contract for like 2-3 fights. Do like Tyson Fury. Sign the rest of your career away to the Saudis. Do a 4-fight, 6-fight deal. Making, 30, 40 million a fight. Do that and be out. You know what I'm saying? You'll be active, you'll be busy. Talk it over with the family, say, hey, this is it. Give yourself 2 more years. Yeah, he's 36, about to be 37, about to be 38, whatever it is. Yo, man, punch out by 38, 39. Make your dough and be out, because Crawford fighting here in the States, he's not going to make the money he wants. He's just not. None of these fighters are, unless you Canelo. But, I mean, we're going to see what happens at the end of Canelo. I mean, Canelo ain't going to stay over here with PBC after he gets to his 3rd fight. I can't see that. I'm not saying that Al Haymon doesn't take care of his fighters. I just don't see that, especially if Canelo has an opportunity to go fight a big name. But that may discourage Canelo, because, Canelo ain't trying to really go out there and get in there with no Benavidez or Morrell. But if the Saudis offer that, man, like I said, I did another video. People thought, oh, that's clickbait. You said Canelo's going to make $200 million. I said, what if they pay him $200 million? Make Nicholas. It's a conversation. Nobody knows what the hell those fighters are going to make. But I could see Canelo. Getting that kind of dough. I sure could, man. Canelo being the biggest name in the sport of boxing. Shit, them Saudis want Canelo over there, they'll pay for Canelo. Canelo, he has that kind of latitude to where he can go out there and flex. Now, Gervonta Davis trying to flex, and he can't do what Canelo can do. Canelo can go flex, and they'll pay some dough for him. They're not stupid either, don't get me wrong, but they'll pay for Canelo. And I can see them paying him something crazy. Maybe a 2-fight deal or something. But I could see Canelo getting $200 million for 1 fight, but 2 fights, I could see it happening, man. I could just see it happening. But that being said, good luck to Crawford. This whole thing about Crawford and Boots, put that on pay-per-view, just like you're doing Tszyu and Thurman. People got to hold their horses. That ain't it. Because without Spence, they would have never hit 650, I don't think. It's like Ryan and Gervonta. I just don't think they would have got 1-point-something million if it wasn't for Ryan. I think Ryan, he and what's his name, Gervonta had to come together, and the two of them together made that fight such a success. But it's going to get interesting now, Because Ryan Garcia, this is all, I put this in about 5 other videos. Ryan Garcia is about to return in April on pay-per-view. Gervonta Davis more than likely is fighting on pay-per-view. But we're going to see who really is a pay-per-view draw. And I would not be surprised if Ryan Garcia, his pay-per-view numbers do more than Gervonta's. Now remember, I didn't say he's a better fighter than Gervonta. For those of you who are like, Ryan Garcia is not a better fighter, I didn't say that, Mick Nicholas. What I'm telling you is, I wouldn't be surprised if Ryan Garcia's pay-per-view numbers from here on out do better than Tank Davis's because of his profile. And a lot of fans right now are looking to boycott Tank, which I think is crazy. But, you know, people say things they don't mean. But out here talking about boycotting Tank, I can understand their frustration. But could you imagine with Tank's next fight and Ryan's next fight, if Ryan does, let's say he does 650,000, 500,000, and Tank does 100,000? Oh boy. Now who's the pay-per-view star in boxing? Canelo then Ryan? And then what if Ryan has 2 or 3 fights and consistently do that? Now what we talking about? Because that social media presence is imperative in the sport of boxing today. It's necessary. Okay? Now that being said, Crawford, Boots, I think that equals poor pay-per-view sales. Do I think they deserve to do $1 million? I think they deserve to do $1 million pay-per-view buys, but does it happen? I don't think so. I don't even think it does 100,000. It's being real. So we'll see what happens. That being said, y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans, all 7 continents. In the breeze.